The Michael Berry Show.
AOL announcing that they will be discontinuing their dial-up at the end of September. And I said, who still has an account? And Kyle writes, Czar, I still have an AOL email. I use it as my burner for online shopping. Had it since probably 1997. Now, I think you can still use your emails, right? You just can't do the dial-up. Somewhere, somebody is using dial-up. Roy Marsh, along with his brother Rob, was the creator of Everyone's Internet, which was a going concern in Houston. I met Roy at the height of his philanthropy, and he would kindly invite me to places with him. And it was like, Matt, there's only a few people in town that spend money at auctions. And he and Mac, it's like when they do the fatted calf at the rodeo, there's only a few people bidding, a couple of plaintiffs' attorneys that have hit big cases and want to get in the news. And then there was Roy. And you'd go to these sports memorabilia things, and he would just, if something didn't sell, he'd bid against himself, spend crazy money. He's one of my I don't get to see him much because I don't see anybody anymore. He's one of my favorite people in the world. I just adore this guy. Roy Marsh, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Roy, did I ever tell you in the stories we didn't know about each other, I once traveled the Trans-Saharan Highway in an old funeral coach with all the signs removed?
Get out.
I've been through the desert in a hearse with no name.
There you have it.
You get massages, do you, Roy?
These days, no.
Well, my massage therapist was having the most difficult time working on my back. She asked on a 1 to 10 scale, how stressed are you? And I said, honestly, only 0.2. And she nodded and said, that explains it. You're 2/10. We might do this all morning. My wife says it's disgusting to pee in the shower. I suppose I should wait till she gets out. Well, you sound very peppy at this hour.
Was this because I told Ramon that I would play the straight man today?
as opposed to the usual. Rumors about Roy Marsh have been confirmed. Roy, I know we've talked about this on the air, but before we get to internet and dial-up and the go-go days and how awesome you are and how much I adore you, take us back. You and your brother, an interesting thing. Although I've seen this more often than maybe people would expect. You and your brother, take us back to how Beeper Boutique started, because before we can talk internet and dial-up, we have to talk about the beeper phenomenon of the 80s, and you guys rode that wave. So take it away.
Oh, yeah. Well, that started when my father and brother were working for another cell company, and their accountant, something von Rippenstein, that was his actual last name, crashed that company. So they had to do something. So they started their own little company over on Bengal and got into the beepers just by happenstance. A salesperson came in and said, hey, you really ought to add this to the cell phones. And they did it. So I think I got fired or something from a job, and Dad's like, well, you can come work for slave wages. So I joined them. But at that point, beepers were they were professional, doctors. So we were like, let's take it to the masses. Let's use radio to approach people. Hey, folks, this is something you can have access to. And radio is a perfect way to reach people, where you have active listening, like the Michael Berry Show. So that grew from one little store to, I think at one time we had 25 stores across Texas and Louisiana. But we were seeing that cell phones were gaining in popularity, and people were starting to let their pagers go and go with the new technology. So our technology provider says, "Hey, listen, we know the internet. You guys know selling. Why don't we go together and start an internet company? Dial-up access." And that was the genesis of Everyone's Internet. Put up a couple $100,000 each, or actually $100,000 each. Got going. Started advertising on TV because my brother wanted to get the free Super Bowl tickets from the TV station.
Mm-hmm.
TV did nothing for us. Then Russell and Marshall Williams, Ad Results, came in and said, "Hey, listen, you need to be on radio. And it's not just any radio, you need to be live endorsement radio." Now, the difference in a live endorsement spot and an avail, which we were taking, broad rotator avail, you're buying leftover inventory so you get it cheap. And it may run at 6 a.m., it may run 5 p.m., somewhere in that slot that you bought. But they convinced us to spend, I think it was either $500 or $600 for a live endorsement for KLOL. And I'm against it. My brother and father, they're like, "Hey, we got to do something. We're not, we signed up 100 customers last month. We need to do better than that." And so, we're listening that first morning it's supposed to air, and I hear the spot, and I hear, they're going on. It's 45 seconds into it, 50 seconds. And they're trying to fill time on the 60-second spot, and Boner pops up. EV1, it doesn't suck. And I think my brother's office was across the bullpen, and I don't know what I threw, but I'm sure I threw something. Yelled, cursed. But before I could get over there, the phones just blew up.
Huh.
And the guys were right. Live endorsement radio worked. We blew up Houston, and from that, we got into the web hosting and whatever. But it was an incredible ride. Our people did amazing things. With the dial-up, you had to send out a disc.
That's right.
So, at first we were buying blank discs, copying the software, and sending it out in a plain mailer.
Roy, hold on just a moment. Roy Marsh
Yep.
was the co-founder of Everyone's Internet. If you're over the age of 40, you know what that is. Otherwise, ask your parents. A number of you emailing, you still have your old AOL accounts, which I presume will still be good, Ramon. I must confess, I don't understand technology. I don't know, whether they'll ever turn those off. Do they make any money? Do you pay for those? Do you remember when Hotmail came out before Google? You had to have a burner account, so you'd have a Hotmail account. Ah, yes, you'd have a Hotmail account. Roy Marsh, along with his brother Robert, was the founder of Everyone's Internet. I got an email from a bail bondsman that said, "Where is he? I need to serve him." Some old bill collectors, some ex-girlfriends and wives. But one fella, Hood, writes, "Czar, I know Hotshot. That's what we called him when we were kids. He lived in my subdivision back in Conroe. Please tell Hotshot that Hood from Forest Hills says hello." That's Hood Mowerman, mechanical designer at Okeanos, an advanced ocean systems company, at 11989B FM 520 in Houston.
Wow.
Do you remember Hood?
Oh, yeah.
That's how he signs his name, so it must be his real name.
It is.
All right, let's go back to Beeper Boutique because we glossed over that. You don't have any meetings or anything, do you?
Me?
Yeah, you
no,
don't have any...
I'm old people.
Okay. I like to imagine you sitting on a beanbag chair, eating, smoking cigarettes and watching Captain Kangaroo and smoking a joint like my buddy Cody Johnson. That might not be your thing, but that's what he's probably doing right about now. Tell me about Beeper Boutique. Tell me in the go-go days. Give me some. You said 25 stores. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I mean, we were huge in Houston, and we expanded to Dallas, Bryan, College Station, Austin, Corpus Christi, Lafayette, Baton Rouge. I think we were up even in Denton, Tyler, Lufkin.
So walk me through the economics. What they would buy the unit from you, and then they would buy a service. What did you pay for that service?
Oh, okay. Economics of it was, let's see, we probably paid like $30 a unit and 20 or $30 a unit, and then sell it with a year's worth of service for like $120. So we paid, let's say $20, $30 for the pager, $2 a month for the service. And
that's
we
pretty
tried
good
to get
markup.
folks to pay. Yeah, it was pretty good markup.
Was there a payment plan, or was it all up front?
Oh, no, you could pay a payment plan was $12 a month.
Oh, yes. What year did y'all start that?
That was Dad and Robert started at probably about 92, 93. I joined 94. We probably, when did we sell that? We sold that probably 2000.
And what did y'all do, would you guess, in gross revenues your best year?
Best year was probably close to $1 million.
Okay. And people were coming in. It's just crazy to imagine because it's not that long ago. People were coming in, presumably most of them with no cell phone. This was a way to be reachable when you were away from your home or office. What percentage of people do you think had cell phones?
When we started? Very small because they were so expensive. In comparison. I mean, this is, we're talking back in the days of the bag phone, the brick, and, the huge installation in your vehicle. So, but that evolved very quickly. The flip phone, Motorola came out with a flip phone probably 96 maybe.
Yeah.
And things started changing dramatically. Cost of technology, drops every year.
Did y'all ever think about getting into the cell phone business?
Oh, we had, that's how they started out selling cell phones. And we did some cell phones, but the cell carriers, their contracts were written to, you had to be really good and to make it work long term. And the pager thing was so much easier.
I think I bought my first cell phone. I had come to Houston, 1989, so I must have done it in maybe 91 or 92, from Houston Cellular there on 59 at about Edlow, across from Greenway Plaza. Remember that store?
Yep.
And then that store became something and became AT&T. It kept flipping. I don't remember who bought out Houston Cellular. And then the building just kind of went derelict, which surprised me. I always thought that was such a great building right next to the HAR headquarters.
Mm-hmm.
Did you
Yep.
foresee cell phones being as powerful and ubiquitous as they are now?
You know, looking back, no, I wasn't that bright. Um, but you know, I thought they were toys. I mean, or not necessarily toys, but I didn't see them. I didn't see the price point dropping like it had for pagers. You know, great insight on my part, huh? But you know, it's all a matter of price.
All right. So you
Right?
sell Beeper Boutique, and you around I guess 2000 you start Everyone's Internet.
No. We started everyone's internet. The first customer we had came on around December 1st of 1999
Okay.
or 1998, and that would I don't know if you remember this name, Rita Delotti.
Oh yeah, I worked with Rita and David.
Yeah,
Yeah, boy,
Rita was one
you're
of our
going
first
back in the
customers.
archives. Yes, Rita was a job share. Do you remember? Little bitty tiny blonde girl. Who was she a job share with? Hold on a second. Roy Marsh, founder of Everyone's Internet's our guest.
This is the Michael Berry Show.
So y'all started in '99. How long before the Everyone's Internet that we heard everywhere was booming? What was that moment where you said, "Okay, this dial-up internet"? Did you call it dial-up? What did you call it back then?
No, we called it internet,
Okay.
and we were crappy to start, but it was what that springboard was Marshall and Russell from Ad Results and Live Endorsement Radio. You know, starting out with KLOL, then oh goodness, I can't. You know, Rula and Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Lance, and they wouldn't let us have Lance and John.
Just Lance.
Lance Erline, John Granato, just Lance.
Uh-huh.
And John's still upset about that today.
John shares grudges and has an elephant's memory the way I do. That's did John have somebody he was speaking for already?
No. They just didn't want both of, or for whatever reason. But it was that, you know, it was the live endorsement component that, you know, people remembered. It was, you know, we came very close to doing a deal with Paul Harvey.
Oh, wow.
And we just didn't have the infrastructure.
Now, forgive
Because
my naivete. Were y'all could handle a client anywhere?
No, you had to have infrastructure. You know, you had to have local dial-up numbers. They weren't going to, or an 800 number, but the 800 number would cost you too much.
Okay. So you had 713 and another number, or that was it?
Oh, no, we had numbers, you know, wherever, you know, in Houston, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth. We were in California for a while until, you know, it just wasn't productive. For whatever reason, the advertising, the live endorsement out there didn't work.
Now, I don't know the business, and I don't remember well enough. Did everybody have the same number, or did each person have a number?
I think we had a number of numbers that could hold certain amounts. So if you couldn't get it on this number, you had another number you could try.
Well, forgive my lack of knowledge on the subject, but did you buy a certain bandwidth? What was the product you were selling, and what was the cost of goods sold for that?
Oh, so wow! Now you're pressing me on this one. I got to tell you, at some point I'd be lying. Well, most points. So I'll just make it up. So we were, $10 a month. Well, then plus the compliance and regulatory fee, which just happened to be the same amount as the sales tax. Yeah. And it was costing us probably all in, all done, maybe $2 a month when we had an area with enough volume. Other areas, because you've got certain fixed costs that if you didn't have enough subscribers to cover those fixed costs, you were losing money. But for Houston, around $2, and selling it for 10. And it was a recurring revenue model. Folks were, they were on a automatic debit or whatever, or hit the credit card. So yes, it was. Mailbox money is lovely.
Yeah, subscription models, everything. I mean, everybody's gone to that. I don't remember paying things by auto pay on the bank. So at least for me, I'm usually late to the trends. But you said on the payment, I could see if you had their credit card, you could run their credit card. You couldn't do direct auto pay then, could you? Like where you could just ding the account, or could you?
I think that we had the ability to ACH.
Okay.
But here again, I'm old and I forget stuff.
Oh, hold on. You got it. Did you bleep it? Okay. What do you think everyone's internet estimate gross revenues were in your best year, and roughly what year would that have been?
Oh, okay. Everyone's internet.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're going to include the web hosting.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
And then we'll break it out.
60 million.
Oh, wow. Okay. And that was 59% profit?
That was a little different deal because the web hosting, we had much higher infrastructure costs. We had to buy servers.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a funny story there. But so 60 million in revenue, and probably 8 or 10 million a year in cash flow from operations. And then you take out the stupid stuff we did in the community. I mean, but we hey, that art car parade was awesome.
Yeah, that was awesome. What did y'all pay for that? That had to be, is that $1 million?
No, it was cheap. Because they were hustling. Yeah. And it may not have been more than 100,000 or 200,000.
But weren't they suffering at that point? Because I know that it was kind of a one-man show. The guy that was over off North Shepherd, right at the tracks there, and I think for a few years there they were really struggling. Hold on. Roy Marsh of Everyone's Internet is our guest.
It's fun for a girl and a boy.
I like Michael Berry Show.
Roy, what was a moment that you started to see that there were problems, that there was a replacement for dial-up, and what was that?
Well, good grief. High-speed internet access was new before we even started dial-up. But probably about 2000, DSL became in vogue. And we had the opportunity to resell, because the only DSL providers were, the phone companies. And dealing with the phone companies bites. But we were like, hey, our customers are demanding it, so we'll try and do DSL. Problem is, you don't control the fulfillment. And they nearly killed us. I mean, they'd say they'd, be out to somebody's house on a certain date, wouldn't show up. For whatever reason, they were not the nicest of people. And so that reflects on us, our business. They're seeing that AT&T employee or that AT&T fulfillment or Southwestern Bell, and that was reflecting on us. And we couldn't do it. So it was probably about that time frame, and knew that we didn't have the resources to go and create the infrastructure to compete directly on that level.
When you say the resources, do you just mean the capital?
Capital is one thing, but intellectual capital is quite a different thing. And our guy was good. Randy Williams, our technical guy, was incredible. Give you an idea of, he tried to hire somebody, a first lieutenant. And I remember the last guy he hired, his resume was a book that he had written and published. And about 2 months into his tenure, he just didn't show up one day. And about 6 months later, we got a package in the mail with his keys and employee card. But on the DSL, it was the capital, the knowledge of building out that infrastructure, and we just it surpassed the resources that we felt we could get to without risking everything.
And risking everything is preparing for the next phase yet again, as you did with Internet After Beeper, and you weren't sure what that would be, or you weren't sure if yeah, that's my question.
No. The web hosting and managed server business, that was my brother. He had bought some gizmo, a Cobalt server, got it in, started playing with it, and realized that you could it had a user interface that made it functional and scalable. So he was always one very impetuous, and when he wanted something, he wanted it right then.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a call from him. I was coming in from a toga party at a Roman chalet. We were on a advertising junket. So I'm rolling in about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and I've got a 40-page fax from him, and it's a $1 million lease. Now, understand, we're barely cash flowing at this point. And he's like, "Sign it," was the message I got. So I'm calling and talking to him, and they weren't serving sweet iced tea at the chalet, and trying to piece through all of this. But I'm like, okay, wait. Yeah. Okay. Hey, we're gonna sell it for $100 a month. Okay. And it's only going to, the lease only costs us $70 a month. So we'll make $30 a month. I'm like, let's step through this. What will it cost us besides the lease payment to provide that service? Oh, well, we've got to have data center space or co-location space. And then we've got, we've got to have an uplink to the internet, and we've got this and we've got that. And he was giving me real low numbers, and I'm like, okay. So if it's fully loaded, we've sold out the 600 servers. We're at 100% occupancy in the space that we've got. It's going to cost us $115, $120 a month. Yeah, but we'll make it up in volume.
That's actually an old business joke.
And my eyes are rolling in the back of my head, but I know I'm dealing with my brother.
Mm-hmm.
So I hadn't signed it. So he signed my name instead. He was very good at that. So we get these in, we put them up, and it goes. I mean, we blow through them. We sell them out. We lease them out inside of 30, 45 days. Get another load from a Cobalt, then another, and then Cobalt gets bought by a competitor to kill them. So then we have to pivot, and we start sourcing our servers from Dell, who became a huge supplier to us. And that's why Dell ended up making a number of charitable donations in Houston around that period of time.
Oh, wow. Were you dealing with Michael directly,
yeah.
or who were you dealing with?
No, I wasn't dealing with anybody. I was just, they
you were
do
at the
something.
toga party. Speaking of which,
hey, somebody had to.
let's discuss your debauchery, because you were living large for a little while. Hold on. Roy Marsh of Everyone's Internet.
This is Mickey Gilly, and the girls all get prettier at closing time when you're listening to The Michael Berry Show.
With the news that at the end of next month, AOL will be terminating their dial-up internet service, we raised the question, why are they still providing dial-up internet service? So we had to call Houston's greatest dial-up internet service from back in the day, Roy Marsh. Roy, you were talking about web hosting, and I think it was a wake-up call to people. I knew that Amazon was in the web hosting business, the AWS wing of that company, because I have a friend named Brian McMacken, and he builds warehouses. And at one point, they were trying to figure out a way. These servers get so hot, as I know you know, and so there's big money in these warehouse farms. I have a friend named Jason Long, and he has a company called Landbridge that ended up selling it ended up going public at, I don't know, the multiple of earnings was so crazy for people buying, and the basis was it was a land play, an oil play that was really how many acres you need to put these to store this data, this equipment for this data, and he had it with the surface when he was drilling underneath. But my buddy Brian McMacken builds warehouses for data centers, and he's made a fortune doing this. So when Trump was deplatformed by Twitter, and he went to, before it was Truth, what was the other one, Ramon? Jason Miller had. Do you remember? Rebel or Huddle or something. He went to an alternative. And so Amazon Web Services cut them off. So now all of a sudden you realized, this whole web hosting is controlled by Amazon and a few others. This is a big, big, big deal. I found myself fascinated by the back end of all of this thing.
Oh, it's crazy. So when we were doing it, we would lease out a server, and then that customer would section out that server to a couple of others who might sublease it. So I'm trying to think what year it was, maybe 2004. A story appeared in the Chronicle. It was it had originated at a low-power AM station on the West Bank. New York Times and Washington Post had picked it up, and then the Chronicle picked it up from there. And it was that Roy Marsh and Everyone's Internet were hosting terrorist websites. And Roy Marsh was connected to George Bush. And so they were trying to embarrass Bush from it. What they didn't know is that terrorist website, and yes, there were terror websites, that terrorist website was like 4 or 5 customers removed, okay? And that Homeland Security had come in and said, you can't take it down for anything. You don't touch that. They don't pay, you don't care. You will not take them down. And so, yeah, there I am in the Houston Chronicle. I'm a terrorist supporter. Well, fortunately.
Maybe it was that Mia Khalifa was showing up in your search history.
Well, there was other things showing up there too. But fortunately, because we were, so well known and so connected, Russell and Marshall from Ad Results got on the phone and were able to confidentially explain the situation, so the story got pulled. So started out at 6 a.m. and by noon it was off. But it was still out there.
You keep up with Russell and Marshall?
I haven't seen them in forever. They built, they went from live endorsement radio to influencers.
Yep.
And built a huge business. And I think Marshall sold out, maybe.
Yeah, they both sold out. Marshall spends about 49.9% of his time in Aspen now, where he has built a mansion. And Russell had moved to Tyler on the lake. I mean, he had the biggest, baddest house in Tyler, living on the lake. And I think he's got, he's a man of action, right? He couldn't survive on that. So they moved to Dallas because the kids were there. And now he's moved back. I texted them during our first break and said, you were the last person left who still has anything nice to say about them. I don't know if I ever told you my Marshall and Russell story, but when I started in radio in 2005, I was doing a weekend show. It was an hour-long, awful show about real estate. And,
real estate, yeah, I remember it.
Oh, it was the worst. And the only reason I did real estate instead of general talk was I was trying to monetize the talk angle. And Eddie Martini, and he ought to be ashamed of himself for this. He's supposed to be my friend. He charged me $10,000 for Sunday morning, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Well, it's more than that now if you want to do some home improvement or whatever. But back then, that was a pretty penny. And I just didn't have it. I was working. I was on city council. And so I said, I'll figure it out. And so Marshall and Russell took me to dinner, and somehow they found out about it. And they said, what's Eddie charging you for that? I said, $10,000. They said, we'll talk to him. That's too much. And I said, would you please? And they said, they called back. It's good news and bad news. Eddie won't budge. He's got a budget to make. Good news. We'll pay for it. Well, you know as well as I do, I didn't have any listeners. And they were they were a live endorsement seller. They didn't need my endorsement. I did endorsements, but it didn't generate any money. And I have loved and adored them ever since, and we have stayed dear, dear friends. If I'm in Colorado, we always go to dinner with Marshall and his wife, and I know all his kids, and it's a blended family. And then his son married my friend Jimmy Pappas' daughter. Jimmy's the mayor of Bunker Spring Valley, Hedwig, or one of those communities. And and his son married Jimmy's daughter. Yeah. Marshall Williams and Russell Lindley are a big part of why I get to do what I do today. Dear friends, wonderful. And obviously the fact that you brought them up 5 times and that you remember how important they were to your business. I have had businesses tell me that live endorsement radio worked for them only because at the time they don't exist anymore, but ad results, and that they pushed them to do that. You know, one time I needed to talk to Handy. Russell picked up the phone and called him, and Handy picked up and he said, "I'm in a meeting. Tell Michael I know who he is. I'll call him back." I'd been on for a few years. Those guys, they were amazing. Roy Marsh, I could share stories with you forever. I love and adore you. You've been a dear, dear friend of mine for many years. It's great to hear your voice and your awesome stories. And we didn't even get into your Caligula lifestyle. Dadgummit, we'll do that next time.
I never debauched nobody.
Oh, Ramon, could you tell him what? Never mind. He's got people to explain terms to him. You don't have to worry with learning the language. You know what? I'm sorry I didn't have time for? The night that he and I had dinner with, who was the guy that always had the block? Cookie Monster? And Yao Ming at Yao's restaurant in the back room. And you had to climb up and get in the chairs because the chairs were, what was it? Dikembe Mutombo.
The Michael Berry Show.